Hi everyone, I am Heather, and I want to welcome you to Magnificent Authors Podcast, brought to you by Magnificent Mamas. This is the show where we'll celebrate the magic of storytelling and the power of words. I'm your host, Heather, and each week I'll be sitting down with incredible authors from all walks of life to explore their creative journeys, uncover their writing secrets, and delve into worlds they create. Whether you are an aspiring writer, a passionate reader, or simply curious about the minds behind your favorite books, this is the podcast for you. So grab a cozy blanket, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready to be inspired by the magnificent authors who join us. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I am Heather with Magnificent Mamas and Magnificent Authors Podcast. We're joined here today with an awesome author I'm really excited for you guys to meet. I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hello, thank you for inviting me onto your podcast, Heather. I really appreciate it. My name's Lara Lawson. My first book out is That Tank Killed My Mother. It's been a childhood ambition of mine to write a novel since I was a child 60 years ago. And I retired 4 years ago. So it's something I've been working on for the last 4 years because, it's like when you're working full-time, children, running a house, I started various times, but then life always got in the way. So now I'm retired. I just thought, I'm living in Spain. I'm at a good place. Now's the time to write that book.
Definitely. It's hard, like you said, during, your younger years with family and work and everything like that. I get it completely. I feel like I'm constantly busy, and I homeschool my daughter too, so I get the busyness.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't think I could have done that. Homeschool children.
I like it. My daughter likes it, so it works better for her.
Good.
So, how did you get into writing?
It's something I've always done since a young child. I'd always sort of write short stories. It's something that I've always wanted to do, but just never had the time. So I'm very interested in what's happening around the world, and just general, it's something that I've done, and I've tried to write books over the years many times, and I've got so far through, but to do over 100,000 words, that's a lot of dedication, and you need a lot of time. So it's just,
I agree.
Something that I've always wanted to do is have my own book published. And I'm really proud of this book. I think it's absolutely a beautiful book.
And it's over 1,000 words?
I think it's about 103,000 words.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I did that NaNoWriMo challenge last month where you have to get 50,000 words in a month. That was hard. That was challenging with time and everything like that. So I get it.
103,000 words. It's taken me a good few years to do it. But as I say, now I'm retired. I've got all the time in the world. And it's an ambition of mine to have a book published. And I've just been trying for years to write that book. But as you say, that volume of words, but you need that volume of words to make it meaningful, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, the idea came from basically the wars in Europe over the last couple of years. We've got Ukraine and Russia and Palestine and Israel. So it could be any war anywhere in the world. That's where it's based. It was just, I saw a child lying on some rubble trying to sleep one day on one of the TV and national news programs. And it was just about how, children and adults are affected by war through, the mental health disturbance and that sort of thing. So it was basically about this young lad, Tariq, who goes out with his mother. It is set in Palestine, and there's no reason why it's set in Palestine. It doesn't reference Israel. It doesn't reference Hamas or Gaza, nothing like that. It's just set in Palestine. He goes out with his mother one day to the shops, and a tank comes around the corner, and he's fixated by this tank, and he doesn't see the soldier behind the tank, but the soldier not trying to kill his mother, but she's just caught in the crossfire and dies. And it's then Tariq's phobia of tanks, blood, and how he grows up and his father being totally distraught with grief and how it affects the family. And it is just a contemporary love story. It's not about war at all. Although it's set in the time of a war, it's nothing to do with war at all. It is just a love story.
So would you classify it as like romance then, or?
Definitely contemporary romance, yes. Yeah. Say it doesn't reference anything to do with Israel or Palestine, nothing like that. It is a contemporary romance, and how Tariq comes to terms with the loss of his mother. He leaves school to look after his younger brother at a very young age. It covers friendships, mental health. He has to learn how to cook. His father just can't leave the bedroom because he's too distraught. So it's just about Tariq, from an 8-year-old boy, how he had to cope with everything. And then his father meets a new woman.
Oh boy.
And it's just a beautiful, beautiful book.
Was it challenging to write? Was there any really difficult parts for you to write?
I think all of it was quite challenging. Trying to keep it that it is not based on the Palestine-Israeli war, that it is just purely a romance. But trying to bring in how young children suffer through mental health in loss of a parent.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a war. It could be any loss of a parent children suffer.
There's a lot nowadays that affect, not just adults, but children's mental health, like you said. And I feel like it's something that's not talked about enough.
Yeah, it is to do with, the mental health of, let's say, it could be a loss of a parent through, I don't know, a car crash, anything. It makes no difference. It's just about his struggles.
Yeah, I understand that. What kind of struggles would you say were the hardest for him?
Seeing his father fall in love again.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That is definitely a hard one. I remember, this isn't quite the same thing, but me and my cousin were really close. We were raised like brother and sister. And when he got married the first time, I was young, like not even in high school. I was probably in middle school, and I was so mad at him because I felt like it was taking the attention away from me as like a little sister. And like obviously I got over that, but it's just funny the way, relationships, how they affect everybody. And there's so many different types of relationships that can affect you and mental health as well.
Well, that's it. It just highlights his struggle as a young boy, having to come to terms with losing his mother, having to raise his younger brother because the father can't do anything, having to go to work. He loses all his friends from school. So when he eventually does go back to school, he's got a totally different experience in life. He's had to learn to cook. He's had to go and do things, work, earn money. So his relationship with his friends is just totally different. They've been in school for years. They're all carrying on their life as normal, when his life wasn't normal.
Yeah.
So it just highlights all those sort of things: friendships, mental health, family dynamics.
Where did you get the inspiration for this? Sorry.
It was basically from that picture I saw. Excuse me, I got a terrible cold on the news a couple of years. Sorry. I just started this afternoon, earache and sore throat. It was a picture that I saw, and it just developed in my head.
I can understand that. I've seen stuff, and then it's like, oh, this would make a really good, scene in a story or something like that. I get that completely. The inspiration.
That was it. And, the war's been going on in Ukraine and Russia, and Palestine and Israel, for the last couple of years. So it's,
Yeah.
it's been on the British news. I don't think it's been on American news, but it's certainly been on the British news, for the last couple of years. So you just pick up and see things and where people are talking and things that I read in the paper.
Yeah.
It took me a couple of years to do the outline of the book, to really sort of knit it together, that it sort of flowed all the
So
way
you're
through.
an outliner then?
Oh no, I've got to
Yeah.
write a full outline. I'm working, and that'll take me a year, maybe 18 months to work out the outline of that book, and then I'll start writing it.
What type of book is that one going to be?
That one again is a pure novel. The same as this one's just a fictional novel, and it's about, again, mental health. The title of that one's called The Talking Shed, and it's a shed that's on a beach in South Wales, and different people go different days of the week to this shed, and they just start talking to each other. You've got two old men that meet there. One's lost his wife, the other one's, I can't remember what his sort of story is. Then you've got two single mums that meet on, say, a Tuesday, for example, and they talk about their experiences.
Yeah.
You've got an autistic boy who goes there on a Friday and just talks to himself. I can't remember the other 2 days. So I've just picked out random people and how they struggle with their mental health, and they go to this shed, and that's where they go and talk, and that's where they get their relief. And it goes through probably a year. It'll go through a year, and how they finally come to terms with their struggle. Right? So I'm working on that at the moment.
Nice. Do you think that a place like that wasn't a doctor's office or something like that would help people with mental health issues?
Yes, I think it does.
Overcome.
Because they get to know each other over a period of time, and they're more comfortable talking to each other over their problems.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
sense.
If you've got doctor's surgery, you can find a time for a start, a 10-minute appointment or whatever the appointment time is. Plus,
yeah,
if you don't know the doctor, it's a stand-in doctor. It's not your normal doctor. You probably wouldn't feel so comfortable talking about your problems.
It's hard for sure. I've seen, a therapist before when I was younger, and it's definitely hard to talk about your issues.
Yeah, so I just thought The Talking Shed, and it's just on a beach in South Wales, and it just, these sort of nice. 5 days of the week, the same people.
Sounds like a nice location.
Every Monday. Oh, it is. It's a beautiful location. It's where I used to live when I lived in the UK. So that's where I got that idea from. So that's the next book that'll take probably 2 years to come out.
That's not bad.
We got 20 ideas.
If you had to write in a different genre, if you had to write in a different genre, what would it be?
I don't know. Because, The Tank That Killed My Mother is a romance book, and The Talking Shed is a romance book as well, in a way. So that's where I like to write. Okay. My first real romance book was Daniel Steele. I read that Thurston House over 40 years ago. Absolutely beautiful book.
Yeah,
and I'm just
her books are good.
Real fan of Daniel Steele. I love her books.
Yeah, hers are definitely good.
Yeah, I do write under a different pen name of self-help books. Excuse me, for teenagers. So, that's another genre that I'm writing in, and I will probably stick to just those two, so, because I just don't have the time.
Yeah, so definitely.
For teenagers, stressed teenage girls, stressed teenage boys, and then the full fictional novels is the area that I'd like to really concentrate on.
Yeah, definitely. It's everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but there's a lot of readers out there, so
yeah.
I can't say everybody loves to read, but I wish everybody did.
I think a lot of people do. My daughter, she's an avid reader as a child. She had a knack. She would read 2 books at the same time. How she managed to do it, I don't know. But she would be reading one book one day and then reading another book the following day, and then going back to the first. She'd have 2 books on the go at the same time.
That's what I plan to do.
Yeah.
I've got some reviews I've got to do, so I'm gonna try and do like 2 different genres at the same time.
Yeah, my son, he'd read magazines, but he wouldn't read a book. You know, they were 2 totally different children.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was just reading, and in the UK, we had a series called The Horrible History.
Mm-hmm.
And literally wore them out.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've all had books like that, I think, where we just read them and read them.
Yeah.
My daughter listens to audiobooks a lot, and she keeps listening to the same author. And it's kind of funny because she's like a best-selling author, and she added me on Facebook today, and I asked her if she wanted to come on the podcast, but she's like, "No, I don't really do podcasts." I was like, "Oh, such a bummer." But it was like fangirl moment, like, "Oh my gosh, this person added me."
I've never done a podcast before, so it's my first
I like
experience.
I've met so many awesome people and very skilled writers and learned about so many books. It's unreal. And I love, like we mentioned, the library thing. I love the fact that I can help get, indie authors, self-published authors, traditional authors get their books into the library system out here because it goes all over the state. So there's 130 libraries connected. So the books that get submitted there can have a chance to go all over the state, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So how long have you been doing this for?
Last March was when we started the podcast. So that season was really short. This one's going to be a lot longer. So
all right.
It's nice. It's pretty awesome.
Who's your favorite author?
What would do what?
So who's your favorite author?
Oh, that's a hard one because there's so many different genres that I love. So like the sci-fi fantasy, I like Anne McCaffrey. Romance, there's just too many to list. Plus I'm reading like indie authors books that are really great. Horror right now, my favorite author is Timothy King. He's a new up and coming author. His books are great. So I just have too many to list, honestly.
Yeah.
What would you say the hardest part of getting your book published was?
Well, I did try to go down the traditional route of going through different agents, but I didn't get very far. I just don't think I'm very good at doing the query letter. And I think the title, That Tank Killed My Mother, probably it's not the best title in the world. That probably put a lot of people off. But it is a contemporary romance. And I think once it actually gets out there, so many more people are going to want to read it because it is a beautiful book. Sorry, I forgot what the question was now. Oh, the hardest
what was the hardest part of publishing your book?
Yeah, so then I thought I'll go down the KDP route, publish it direct myself, which is great, but it's just publicizing it is the next biggest thing. So I do a lot on TikTok, Instagram, but I'm just learning about Instagram. I don't really know Instagram that well. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not finding Facebook very successful.
It's different, that's for sure. Sorry. I promote on mainly Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. But sorry, I heard a weird noise. I think, there's so many other social media platforms out there I've got to take more time and get to know some of the lesser known ones that are still active, so to speak, and see which ones I think are the best. Not necessarily most popular, but get, you know, active people and whatnot.
I'm enjoying TikTok. I say Instagram, I don't really know that well. And Facebook,
Yeah.
I've been on Facebook for years, so I'm promoting through Facebook as well.
Yeah. I remember before Facebook came out and there was MySpace, and I was like, I'm not gonna switch over and use Facebook. And now it's like I couldn't imagine not having Facebook.
No, I don't know MySpace. Never heard of that.
It was a long time ago. Now it's pretty much become like a thing for music. It's really weird, but it was very customizable, like for your profile and stuff. There was a lot of stuff you could customize. It was really cool.
All right. I'll ask my son about it. He's quite technical. He would know. He's very musical as
Yeah.
well, so I'll ask him about it. Let's make a note of that.
So KDP, was it easy to get your book through?
Yeah, very simple. Yeah, no problems at all. If you follow the guidelines step by step and make sure you've got the correct size cover for the number of words and you've got it formatted to go into KDP, yeah, it was dead simple. Didn't have a problem at all.
Yeah. That's I was writing on Kindle Vella, which is like a pay to read, chapter by chapter book thing out here in the US, and it was only available in the US, but they shut it down the beginning of December. So so now it's like, okay, now I'm really going to have to get it done and get it into KDP.
Yeah, as long as you follow the guidelines, you're okay. You've got to have the certain size cover and you've got to make sure that the margins are right so that it's what they call it bleeding, so it doesn't go into over the margins, and you've got to get the spine right and you've got to get the font correct down the spine. But it's not that difficult. If I can do it, anybody can do it, to be honest. But it's just actually writing the book is probably the hardest part.
Definitely. I'm gonna use the one that I wrote 50,000 words on, I think, and go from there, work on the other ones, but start publishing the one I wrote last month. So if you had advice to give to an aspiring author, what would it be?
Just go for it. Just go for it. Keep writing every single day. Just write and write and write. You've then got to go back and edit it. Or first of all, I think I'd do the outline. Make sure you've got a solid outline of the book first, so you know exactly where you're going in each chapter. That's probably the most important thing, is having a solid outline for all of the book. That took the longest time in That Tank Killed My Mother, because it's 42 chapters, which is a lot. So I had to make sure it was a solid outline first. So certainly that's the first thing to work at. Probably think more about the title. That title, That Tank Killed My Mother, just came out of my head. Not the best title in the world. The cover, I think, is really good because it does show the tank, and it shows Farida, the mother, in one corner, separated from Tariq. So I think the cover, the cover design is really good. And the important thing is the book description on the back. Make sure you've got a really good book description. And then also lots of reviews.
Yeah, reviews are important.
Yeah. So I think I haven't checked for a while now, but I think I've got a good solid 40 odd reviews for That Tank Killed My Mother.
That's awesome.
And if you read the reviews, it comes across that it is a romance book. Although it highlights the mental health of children and adults as well. It's not just children, it's children and adults. And I suppose blended families, how the new woman blends into the family.
Yeah, there's a lot of those nowadays too, so
yeah,
it's a good topic to write about and whatnot. Can't wait to see the book and see how everything goes.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me onto your podcast. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap on another episode of Magnificent Authors Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to share another inspiring conversation with a talented author. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Magnificent Authors Podcast so you don't miss any of our upcoming conversations with amazing writers. And be sure to check out Magnificent Mamas on our website, which is www.magnificentmamas.us, or on our Facebook page for more inspiring content from incredible authors. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. What resonated with you the most? Head over to Facebook or leave a comment on our website and let me know. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep those imaginations soaring.